The rain fell softly over the steel roofs of the night market, mixing with the neon lights that painted the streets in purple and blue. Captain Ryan Hale moved slowly through the crowded marketplace of Zereth Prime, a border planet known for trade, crime, and things that should never be sold. He had seen many strange things during his years in the Galactic Corps, but nothing prepared him for what he was about to witness tonight. His boots splashed through puddles as voices echoed all around, traders shouting, machines humming, and creatures from dozens of worlds bargaining for power or survival. Ryan wasn't there to buy anything. He was there for information, a tip about a smuggler ring selling stolen alien technology. But as he passed a dim corner, he froze. There, under a flickering red light, was a cage. Inside it sat a girl, not human, but something beyond beautiful, beyond tragic. Her skin glowed faintly violet under the lights, her silver hair tangled and wet from the rain, her wrists chained to the floor. She wore torn fabric, dirty from dust and blood, yet her eyes, large, bright, and trembling, were full of life. Of fear and of silent pain, a merchant stood beside her, shouting to a small crowd of curious buyers. Fresh catch from the outer zones, an untouched Zolari, strong, obedient, and perfect for service. The crowd laughed, some whispered about her beauty, others about her rarity. Ryan clenched his jaw, disgust rising in his chest. The Zolari were a peaceful alien race, known for their healing abilities and calm nature. During the war, many had been captured and sold as slaves, but seeing one like this, treated like property, was more than he could bear. He turned away at first, trying to remind himself he had a mission. He couldn't afford distractions, but then he heard it, a soft voice, weak and broken. Please, buy me, she whispered, looking directly into his eyes. Buy me and make me your slave. Ryan froze. Her voice wasn't begging for ownership, it was begging for rescue. He saw the small tremble in her lips, the way her chains cut into her skin. She was trying to survive the only way she could. He walked closer, trying not to draw attention. The merchant noticed and grinned. Ah, human. You've got good taste. She's young, strong, and loyal, once trained. Half price tonight. Ryan's heart pounded. How much? He asked quietly, though he hated himself for saying it. 10,000 credits, the merchant said. And she's yours to command. Ryan reached into his jacket, pretending to pull out a credit chip, but his mind was racing. He wasn't a buyer, he was a soldier. He couldn't simply purchase a life and walk away, but if he didn't act, someone else would, someone cruel. The alien girl's gaze never left him. Her eyes glowed faintly as she whispered again, almost soundless. Please, I'll do anything. Just take me away from here. In that moment, something inside Ryan broke. He wasn't looking at a stranger anymore. He was looking at someone who had already lost everything. He handed over the credits without another word. The merchant laughed, unlocking the cage. She's all yours, soldier. Don't let her bite. Ryan ignored him, stepping forward. As the chains fell, the girl stumbled, weak and cold. He caught her before she hit the ground, feeling her trembling against his chest. Her voice was barely a whisper. Thank you, master, she said softly, though her tone carried both gratitude and sadness. Ryan looked down at her, his heart heavy. Don't call me that, he said gently. You're safe now. But deep inside, he knew nothing about this was safe. He didn't know who she was, where she came from, or why she was really here. And as the thunder rolled across the skies of Zereth Prime, Ryan felt a strange pull in his chest, a feeling that this girl's story was about to change his life forever. The night market had started to shut down, lights flickering one by one as the rain turned into a heavy downpour. Captain Ryan Hale kept his hood low as he led the alien girl through the narrow alleyways, his eyes darting around for any signs of pursuit. He could still feel the weight of what he'd just done. He'd bought someone, paid for a living being, but deep inside, he knew it wasn't ownership, it was rescue. The girl stumbled beside him, clutching a torn blanket around her shoulders. Her thin body shaking from the cold, Ryan slowed his pace. You can rest soon, he said softly, but she didn't respond. Her bright violet eyes kept darting around as if expecting to be dragged back at any moment. When they finally reached his ship, the Nomad's Edge, Ryan pressed his hand on the scanner. The door hissed open, revealing the dimly lit interior of the old cargo vessel. He guided her inside, shutting the door behind them. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the engines and the rain outside. You're safe now, Ryan said again, handing her a towel. No one will hurt you here. She looked at him silently, then down at her wrists where the metal cuffs had left deep red marks. Her voice trembled as she spoke. You paid for me. That means I belong to you now. Ryan frowned. No, he said firmly. You belong to yourself. I only wanted to get you out of there. The alien girl's expression softened slightly, but confusion clouded her eyes. My name is Lyra, she said quietly, her voice fragile but melodic. I was taken months ago from my colony. We were healers. The humans, some of them think our kind can be used as experiments. Ryan's jaw tightened. Who took you? Lyra hesitated, her gaze lowering. A man named Varric. He runs the black market on this planet. He captures Xalari and sells them. But I wasn't supposed to be sold yet. I overheard something. Something dangerous before Ryan could ask. The ship's alarm blared. A proximity alert. Someone was approaching fast. Lyra gasped, panic flashing across her face. They found us. Ryan ran to the control console and pulled up the sensors. 2 armed hovercrafts were closing in on his location. Damn it, he muttered. We've got company. He turned to Lyra. Can you fight? She shook her head. No, but I can help you hide and without waiting. She pressed her palm against the metal wall suddenly. Glowing blue veins of energy spread across it. The light shimmered, and in an instant, the small ship seemed to disappear from radar. Ryan's eyes widened. You cloaked us? Lyra nodded weakly. It won't last long. My energy is low. Outside, the engines of the hovercrafts roared past, searching, scanning, then slowly fading away into the storm. Ryan exhaled a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He turned to Lyra, who had collapsed to her knees. Her breathing shallow. Hey, stay with me, he said, catching her as she fell forward. Her skin was burning hot, her glow dimming. What's happening to you? He asked urgently. Lyra's voice came out in a whisper. They implanted something inside me. A tracker. And a failsafe. If I ever escape, it'll... She winced in pain. Kill me. Ryan's heart pounded. He gently laid her on the medical table, scanning her body with his ship's med kit. A small, pulsing signal appeared near her heart. A biochip. Alien technology fused with her nervous system. He clenched his fists. We can remove it. Lyra shook her head weakly. You can't. It's coded to my life force. If you touch it wrong, it will destroy me. Ryan looked at her pale face. The fear in her trembling voice. He had saved her once, but now, it seemed her life hung by a thread he couldn't see. Still, something inside him refused to give up. Then we find the one who put it there, he said. Voice low but determined. Lyra's eyes widened. Varric? Ryan nodded. Yes, he's the reason you suffered. He's the reason others are still chained. We'll find him and end this. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile, tears glimmering in her eyes. For the first time in months, she dared to hope. And as the ship lifted off into the storm, heading toward the distant lights of Varric's fortress, Ryan felt the weight of a mission far greater than any order he'd ever followed. This wasn't about duty anymore. This was about redemption, and the alien girl whose whisper had changed everything. The storm raged above Zerath Prime like an angry beast, lightning flashing across the glass towers of the city. As Ryan's ship descended through the clouds, inside the Nomad's edge, the air was thick with tension, the low hum of the engines blending with Lyra's slow breathing. She sat in the co-pilot seat, pale but awake, her silver hair tied back, her violet eyes glowing faintly against the dim lights. Ryan glanced at her. You sure you're strong enough for this? Lyra gave a weak smile. Strong enough to run? Strong enough to fight if I must. Her voice was soft but carried something new. A quiet fire that hadn't been there before. Ryan had seen soldiers break under less pain than she'd endured. And yet here she was, sitting beside him, ready to walk back into the very place that had destroyed her. He admired that kind of strength, even if she didn't know she had it. The ship landed on the edge of the industrial sector. A maze of steel corridors, smoke vents, and flickering red lights. Somewhere within that labyrinth was Varric, the man who ran the black market, the man who had implanted the death chip inside her. Ryan checked his plasma pistol, the metallic click echoing in the narrow cockpit. We go quiet. If anyone sees us, we're done. Lyra nodded, pulling a dark cloak over her shoulders, hiding her faint glow as they stepped out into the cold night. The city seemed alive with whispers, machines clanking, traders shouting, drones buzzing overhead. Ryan led her through hidden passages, Alleys filled with holographic signs and flickering blue fog. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound carried danger. Finally, they reached a massive gate guarded by 2 alien mercenaries, both armed with pulse rifles. Ryan crouched behind a container. Watching their movements, Lyra leaned close, whispering, "I can distract them." He frowned. No, too risky. But she touched his hand, her skin warm against his. "Trust me," before he could stop her. She stepped out from the shadows, letting her hood fall. Her violet skin shimmered faintly in the light, the guards freezing instantly. "Hey!" one of them barked. How did you escape?" Lyra raised her hands, her expression one of submission. "Please." "I came back. I can't live without my master." The guards exchanged confused glances. Lowering their weapons slightly, that was when Ryan moved. Silent as a shadow. 2 quick shots from his pistol dropped them before they could even call for help. Lyra flinched at the sound but didn't look away. "You didn't have to," she started. Ryan shook his head. "They would have killed you. Let's move." Inside, the fortress smelled of oil, smoke, and fear. Cages lined the walls, filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Some conscious, others barely alive. Lyra's steps slowed as she passed them, her voice trembling. "He's still trading lives. Even children." Ryan's jaw tightened. "We'll stop him. I promise." They reached the upper level, a glass walkway overlooking the entire facility. At the end stood Varric, a tall, broad man in a black coat, his face hidden behind a silver mask. "So," his voice echoed, cold and mocking. "My favorite pet found herself a hero." Lyra stiffened, her fists clenched. Ryan stepped forward, gun raised. "Deactivate the chip inside her now," Varric chuckled. "You really think it's that simple? That girl isn't just a slave human, she's the key." Ryan's brows furrowed. "Key to what?" Varric gestured toward the cages. "The Zalari have something special. Bioenergy that can heal or destroy. She's the last pureblood of her kind. That chip doesn't just kill her. It controls her." Ryan felt his stomach twist. Lyra's eyes widened, horror spreading across her face. "You used me?" Varric's voice softened. "Used you?" "No, my dear. You are the weapon." Before Ryan could react, Varric pressed a button on his wrist device. Lyra screamed, collapsing to the floor, blue light pulsing from her chest. Her body convulsed, the glow spreading through her veins like lightning. "Stop it," Ryan shouted, firing a shot that grazed Varric's shoulder, but the man didn't flinch. Lyra's voice broke through the static in the air. "Ryan, run, I can't. Stop it." But Ryan knelt beside her, gripping her hand. "I'm not leaving you." Her eyes locked on his, tears mixing with light. "If it activates fully, it'll destroy everything here." Ryan looked up at Varric, his blood boiling. "You think you can control her?" he growled. Varric smiled beneath his mask. "I already do." The floor shook as machines began to power up. Alarms blaring through the fortress, Ryan realized. This was no simple escape anymore. They weren't just fighting for freedom. They were fighting to stop something far bigger, something that could burn the entire planet to ash. And in the middle of that storm stood Lyra, the girl who had whispered for someone to buy her life, now glowing brighter than ever, and Ryan knew he would do anything to save her, even if it meant facing hell itself. The air inside Varric's fortress trembled with energy. Every light flickered red, alarms screamed through the metal corridors, and the ground cracked beneath the surge of power flowing from Lyra's body. Ryan could barely stay on his feet as waves of blue energy rippled outward, shaking the cages and short-circuiting machines all around them. Lyra lay on the ground, her body glowing brighter with every pulse, her breath shallow and broken. "Ryan, please, make it stop," she whispered, her voice filled with pain and fear. Ryan knelt beside her, gripping her hand tightly. "I'm here, Lyra. Just hold on." But deep inside, he knew he was holding on to a storm that could destroy them both. Across the walkway, Varric watched with a cold smile beneath his silver mask. "You see now, Captain?" he called out over the roaring energy. "She isn't your savior. She's a living weapon, designed to obey whoever holds her code." He lifted his wrist controller, and Lyra's body jerked violently as another surge of energy coursed through her veins. Ryan's rage boiled over. He raised his plasma pistol and fired 3 precise shots. Varric dodged 2, but the third hit the controller. Sending sparks flying, Varric cursed, stumbling back. "You fool! You'll kill her!" The glow around Lyra flickered, her scream echoing through the hall. Ryan dropped his gun and pulled her close. "Lyra, listen to me. You can fight it. You're not his weapon. Her eyes glowed white now, light streaming from the corners as she gasped. It's inside me. It's burning. Ryan looked around desperately, spotting a console connected to the central control core. If he could override Varric's link, maybe he could cut off the signal before it killed her. He sprinted to the panel, hands flying over the controls, trying to decode alien symbols flashing across the screen. The fortress shuddered again as explosions erupted below, freeing dozens of enslaved aliens from their cages. Panic spread, the sound of chaos rising from every floor. Varric snarled, "You think you can outsmart me? She's programmed to obey. Even her thoughts belong to me." But Ryan ignored him, slamming his fist on the console. "Come on, come on." The screen flashed green. Access granted. Instantly, the pulse of energy slowed, and Lyra gasped for air. Her glow dimming to a soft blue, Ryan ran back to her, kneeling at her side. "You did it. Lyra, you're free." But she shook her head weakly. "No, not yet." He connected me to the power core. "If the energy inside me releases again, it'll take half the city with it." Ryan looked up at the towering generator humming in the distance. The fortress wasn't just a trading post, it was a reactor. Built to harvest her kind's bioenergy, Varric's plan hadn't been to sell slaves. It had been to weaponize them. Varric rose from the shadows, his voice filled with fury. "You've ruined years of work, human. That girl was my masterpiece." He reached into his coat, pulling out a jagged energy blade that crackled with red light. Ryan stood, drawing his pistol again. "You hurt her once. You don't get a second chance." They clashed. Varric swung fast. His blade slicing through metal and sparks. Ryan dodged, countering with a blast that scorched Varric's arm. Lyra tried to stand, watching through blurred vision as the two fought amid the chaos. For a moment, time slowed. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside her. Her heart pounded with fear, guilt, and something deeper. Then she felt it. The pulse inside her chest sinking with Ryan's heartbeat. A connection, fragile but real. Her voice rose softly, almost like a song. "Ryan, let me help you." He turned, seeing her eyes flare again, but this time, it wasn't wild, it was controlled. The glow around her grew steady. Wrapping around him like a protective wave, Varric lunged forward for the kill. But the energy from Lyra's hands exploded outward. The blast sent Varric flying across the walkway, his mask cracking, revealing a scarred, furious face. The entire fortress trembled, lights bursting in showers of sparks. Ryan shielded Lyra as debris rained down. When the smoke cleared, Varric was gone, vanished into the shadows below. Lyra collapsed into Ryan's arms, her breathing weak. "You saved me," she whispered. Tears glistening in her glowing eyes, Ryan shook his head. "No, we saved each other." Outside, the storm began to fade, the first light of dawn breaking through the clouds over Zirath Prime. But deep below the wreckage, in the burning remains of the fortress, a broken hand reached for a shattered mask. Varric was still alive, and his voice filled with rage echoed in the dark. "This isn't over. Not by far." The cold metallic floor trembled beneath Ryan's boots as the hum of hidden machines grew louder, pulsing like a giant heartbeat beneath the fortress. Lyra stood beside him, her chains gone, but her body still glowed faintly with blue energy that made the air shimmer around her. Her eyes, once calm and soft, now flickered with fear and confusion. Something was wrong. Ryan could feel it. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" Lyra looked up, her voice trembling. "He's here. I can feel him." Before Ryan could ask who, a deep, mocking laugh echoed through the metal corridors. From the shadows emerged Varric, the alien warlord who had once claimed to own her. His armor gleamed under the dim red lights, and his pale eyes glowed with cruel amusement. "Did you really think you could take what's mine and just walk away?" Varric sneered, stepping closer. Lyra flinched, her entire body tensing as strange lines of light crawled up her neck. Her breathing quickened. Ryan aimed his plasma rifle. "She doesn't belong to you," Varric chuckled. "Oh, human. You don't understand. She's not even herself anymore." He tapped a control chip on his wrist. The effect was instant. Lyra gasped, falling to her knees, clutching her chest. Her eyes rolled back, glowing with fierce white light. The air vibrated with raw power. Sparks crackled across the floor. Ryan rushed toward her. "Lyra, fight it!" But her voice came out distorted, layered with static and echo. "I can't. He's inside my mind." The lights overhead exploded. The fortress shook as energy surged through the walls. Lyra's power, Something deep and ancient had been unleashed. Ryan barely managed to drag her behind a broken pillar as shockwaves burst through the hall. Pieces of metal flew like knives. He shouted over the chaos, "Listen to me, Lyra. You're stronger than him. You don't need to obey." For a split second she looked at him, really looked, and a tear fell down her glowing cheek. Then she screamed. A blinding wave of blue fire erupted from her body, racing across the floor, slamming into Varric. The blast threw him into a steel wall with bone-crushing force. Smoke and debris filled the air. When it cleared, Varric rose slowly, laughing. Half of his mask cracked open to reveal a scarred, gray face. "Ah, yes, that's the power I built into her. You see now, Captain? She isn't a girl. She's a weapon. A creation." Ryan's heart pounded. "You're lying," but Varric shook his head. "Ask her." Lyra's trembling hands clutched the ground. "He's telling the truth," she whispered weakly. "They made me in his lab. I was grown, not born. Programmed to obey his voice." Ryan stepped closer. "Then you can unlearn it." Her eyes widened. "No one ever told me that before." Varric raised his arm, summoning his weapon. "Enough sentiment." Ryan moved fast. He shot at the control chip on Varric's wrist. It sparked and shattered, sending a burst of static energy into the air. Varric roared in pain. Lyra collapsed, but the glow around her began to soften, no longer wild but calm, controlled. The storm in her chest started to quiet. Ryan knelt beside her. "You're free now." She shook her head. "No, not yet. His system, it's still connected to me. If I lose control again, it'll destroy this entire place." Ryan helped her stand. "Then we'll end it together." Behind them, Varric's laughter echoed once more. "You think this ends here? She's connected to my core network. Destroy me, and you destroy her." Lyra's expression hardened, a flicker of strength returning to her voice. "Then I'll destroy both." Before Ryan could stop her, she reached toward the glowing power reactor at the center of the fortress. "Lyra, wait." Ryan shouted, his voice breaking. "There has to be another way." Her lips curved into a sad, beautiful smile. "You gave me something no one else did. A choice." Energy began to surge again, lighting up every wall, every corridor. The fortress groaned as if alive. Then, silence. Only the hum of her heartbeat remained, growing stronger, brighter, and unstoppable. Ryan shielded his eyes as the light consumed everything. And in that final second, he heard her whisper softly, "Remember me, Ryan." The explosion tore through the sky. When the light faded, the fortress was gone. But somewhere deep within the wreckage of space, a faint blue glow still pulsed, alive. Silence filled the ruins of the alien fortress. Smoke drifted through the broken corridors, where once there had been the sound of machines and the hum of energy. Ryan staggered to his feet, his vision blurred, his ears ringing. He could still smell the burned metal and ozone from the explosion that had nearly torn the structure apart. "Lyra?" he called out, his voice echoing through the hollow remains. But there was no answer. Only the soft hum of dying circuits and the occasional crackle of blue sparks. He searched desperately among the twisted remains of the reactor room. The place where she had stood moments before was now just a crater of scorched metal and faint light. His heart sank. She was gone. For a long moment, Ryan stood still, breathing heavily, trying to accept what had just happened. He had seen the girl he saved, the girl who had smiled at him even through pain, disappear in a storm of light to stop the monster who had enslaved her. And yet something inside him refused to believe she was truly gone. He touched the small pendant she had given him earlier. A fragment of her old chain, melted into a thin silver charm. It pulsed faintly in his hand. Then a voice whispered through the air. "Ryan." He froze. The voice was faint, echoing like a dream, but he recognized it instantly. "Lyra," he shouted, looking around the wreckage. "Where are you?" The light from the broken reactor flickered, forming a faint outline. The shape of a girl, glowing softly in blue. Her face shimmered like glass, her features fading in and out of focus, but her eyes were the same. Calm, kind, and full of light. "Ryan," she said, smiling weakly. "I didn't die. Not completely. My body is gone, but my energy, it merged with the reactor. I became part of this system." Ryan stepped closer, his heart racing. "You're alive." "You're still here." I don't know for how long, she whispered. The system is breaking down. I can feel the fortress dying around me. Soon this place will collapse. Ryan clenched his fists. Then I'll get you out. There has to be a way, some backup core, some transfer method. Lyra shook her head slowly. No, my data is tied to this energy field. If you remove me, I'll fade. I don't exist the way I used to. Her form flickered, growing dimmer for a moment. Ryan reached out, his hand passing through her light like mist. You can't just stay here. You fought to be free. You deserve to live, she smiled sadly. Maybe this is freedom, Ryan. For the first time, no one can command me. No one can hurt me. I am my own light. A lump formed in Ryan's throat. He didn't know what to say. He had fought wars, lost friends, seen planets burn, but nothing had ever hurt like this. Then Lyra's faint image leaned closer. There is one thing you can do for me. Anything. Go, she whispered. Leave this place. Take what you learned. Protect others like me. Tell them we were here, that we tried to be more than what they made us. Her glow brightened for a moment, filling the dark room with soft warmth. You gave me something no one else did. A reason to hope. Ryan's eyes burned as he nodded. I promise. You'll never be forgotten. The light around her began to fade. The hum of the reactor weakened. Goodbye, Ryan, her voice whispered. Thank you for seeing me, Lyra, he shouted. But her light dissolved, scattering into thousands of tiny blue sparks that drifted upward like fireflies, vanishing into the smoke. And then, she was gone. Ryan fell to his knees, clutching the pendant tightly. But as he turned to leave, something strange happened. The walls of the fortress glowed faintly again, and he realized that the lights were pulsing, in rhythm with his heartbeat. A single blue spark drifted toward him, settling softly on his hand. Her voice echoed once more, faint but clear. I'll always be with you. Ryan closed his eyes, and for the first time since the explosion, he smiled. Because somewhere in the light of the dying stars, the girl who once called herself a slave had finally become free. The stars were quiet. The sky above the ruined city shimmered faintly, dust and ash rising from what had once been a powerful alien fortress. Ryan stood on the rocky ridge, staring at the smoking ruins far below. It had been 3 days since Lyra's light faded, and the silence that followed felt heavier than any battlefield he'd known. He touched the silver pendant she had given him, the one that still pulsed softly, glowing every few seconds like a heartbeat. It shouldn't have been possible. The fortress was gone, the reactor destroyed, yet somehow, her energy still lived inside that tiny piece of metal. He'd spent days trying to understand it, studying the pattern of its glow, listening in the quiet nights when he swore he could almost hear her voice, a whisper carried by the wind. That night, as he set up camp beside the ruins, the glow began to change. Instead of soft blue light, the pendant flashed with small patterns, dots and lines. Ryan frowned. It looked like a message. He grabbed his old data scanner, plugged in the charm, and watched as the symbols projected into the air. It was her handwriting, or at least her mind's version of it. If you see this, it means my light still lingers, the message began. I found something deeper than we thought. The humans didn't just capture us, and they were using us to power something else, something alive. Ryan's breath caught. Something alive? He whispered to himself. It's not over, the message continued. Find the place called Station Omega. That's where it began. That's where they built the core that keeps our minds trapped. If you go there, maybe you can free the rest of us. The message flickered and faded. Ryan sat there in stunned silence. Lyra wasn't just leaving a goodbye, she was leaving a mission. By morning, he was already on the move. The path to Station Omega wasn't marked on any human or alien map, but the pendant glowed brighter when he turned east, toward the broken horizon. It was as if it could feel where it needed to go. Days turned into weeks. Ryan crossed deserts of glass and ruins of old battlefields. He passed burned-out cities where alien bones still lay untouched, the silence broken only by the sound of wind. Along the way, he began to hear it again, a soft hum in the air, faint but familiar. Lyra's tone. Her voice mixed with static. Sometimes at night he would dream of her, standing in the light, smiling, whispering something he could never quite hear. But each time he woke, the pendant would glow stronger, as if urging him onward. Finally, he reached the edge of a canyon that split the planet in two. At the bottom was a structure, massive, ancient, and buried deep within the rock. Its surface still glowed faintly with alien symbols. Station Omega. Ryan descended carefully, feeling the air grow colder the deeper he went. When he finally stepped inside, the ground pulsed beneath his feet. The walls were alive with lines of blue light, energy flowing like veins. And then, he heard her. Ryan, he froze. The voice wasn't just an echo this time. It was real, inside the chamber, resonating with the walls themselves. Lyra? He whispered. Is that you? Yes, the voice replied softly, everywhere and nowhere at once. You followed the light. Ryan looked around, his heart pounding. You said you were gone. I thought I was, she said, her tone warm but faint. But when the core broke, a part of me slipped into the network. I've been watching, waiting. Her voice trembled slightly. There are others here, Ryan, thousands, trapped in circuits and cold metal, their minds bound like mine once was. But now we can free them. Ryan stared at the glowing walls, realizing they weren't just lights, they were pulses. Lives. Souls. What do I have to do? He asked quietly. Touch the main console, Lyra whispered. Your blood, it carries the key. You freed me once. You can free them all. Ryan stepped forward, his hand hovering over the console. The pendant glowed brighter than ever, bathing the room in light. Lyra, he said softly, if this works, what happens to you? Her voice was calm, but he could feel her smile in the sound. Then I'll finally be home. Ryan took a deep breath and pressed his hand against the console. The chamber erupted in light. Ryan's hand burned against the console. The moment his skin touched the living metal, the entire chamber roared to life. Streams of blue energy burst from the walls like rivers breaking through stone, rushing upward toward the glowing ceiling. The ground trembled beneath his feet as the hum of thousands of voices filled the air. Faint, whispering, crying, gasping. He fell to his knees, clutching his arm as light poured from his veins. The pendant Lyra had given him shattered, releasing a blinding pulse that swept through the room like a wave. The blue glow deepened into white, too bright to look at, too alive to ignore. Ryan! Lyra's voice echoed from everywhere, gentle, desperate, filled with a strange kind of joy. It's working. You're breaking the locks. He gritted his teeth. I can't hold it. You have to, she urged. The network recognizes your blood. It's human. They used human DNA to bind our minds. You can unbind them, Ryan screamed as the light surged again. Images flooded his mind, alien faces, thousands of them. Men, women, children of every shape and color, each one trapped behind invisible walls reaching toward him. He could feel their fear, their loneliness, their centuries of pain. Come on, he muttered through clenched teeth. You're free now, all of you. Lyra's voice softened. Do you see them, Ryan? They were like me, bought, used, forgotten, but now they'll see the stars again. The walls cracked, spilling columns of light into the sky. From above the canyon, the planet's dark clouds split open, letting beams of energy shoot outward into the cosmos. Signals, transmissions, freedom. And then the floor beneath him began to collapse. Ryan stumbled backward, grabbing onto the broken console as the structure shook violently. Lyra, the whole thing's coming down. I know, she said, calm now, her tone strangely peaceful. It has to. The system was built to control us. It can't exist without slavery. He looked around desperately. Then come with me. I can still save you. Her laughter, soft like music, echoed through the crumbling chamber. Ryan, I am here. In the light. In the voices. You didn't just free me. You freed all of us. The ceiling cracked open and a blinding column of white shot upward, piercing the sky. The canyon was glowing like a sun being born. Ryan shielded his eyes as the ground lifted beneath him, tossing him backward through the air. He landed hard on the rocks above the canyon. His lungs burned, his hands shaking as he looked back down. Station Omega was gone. In its place was a massive pillar of light, swirling and rising higher until it scattered into millions of tiny sparks, drifting across the sky like stars being reborn. And then, silence. Ryan stared for what felt like hours. Slowly, the world grew quiet again. No more hum, no more pain. Only the wind, and the faint pulse of light from the pendant fragments scattered near his hand. He picked one up. It was still warm. Lyra, he whispered, voice trembling.
Did it work?
A soft breeze passed through the canyon, carrying with it a faint, familiar whisper. Yes, Ryan, we're free. His breath caught. The voice wasn't loud or clear, but it was real, full of warmth and peace. He stood slowly, looking up at the stars. The sky was brighter now, dotted with new lights. Lights that hadn't been there before. Souls, maybe. Or signals, or both. For the first time since the war began, Ryan smiled. Weeks later, he returned to his small outpost on the edge of the wasteland. The world was changing. Reports spoke of strange bursts of light across other planets, old systems unlocking, machines shutting down on their own. The networks that once chained entire species were crumbling. Every night, Ryan sat by the window watching the sky. Sometimes, when the wind was just right, he swore he could hear laughter. Her laughter, carried on the air. And one night, as he looked out over the horizon, something caught his eye. A shape formed in the light, faint, blue, and familiar.